Hello and welcome to Back to the Feature, the show we talk about movies past, present, and future. Today, we're going to keep it in the past and do one of our favorite things. Go back 30 years and see what was in the theaters. This week, it's Monster Squad.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great.
So, The Monster Squad is a Fred Dekker cult classic, written by Shane Black and someone else I can't remember right now.
Fred Dekker, too.
Fred Dekker, too.
Yep.
Look at that.
The writers for the new Predator movie coming out next year.
Wow, look at that. So this is definitely timely. John is all up on the facts today. So, guys, it was definitely one that, I've heard from a lot of friends who grew up with this movie and love this movie, and I hear it referenced by reviewers and other people, too, as far as it being like this cult, fun, Halloween-type movie. So I was definitely interested in checking it out for our 30-year anniversary when I saw that it was on the list. John, what were your first impressions of Monster Squad, and had you heard about it before?
I heard about it on Movie Fights with Screen Junkies. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Mike Carlson. But just this forgotten cult classic movies from the 80s. It's got monsters in it. It's got horror stuff in it.
It definitely came up because they're talking about the Universal Monsters universe and the monsters teaming up to do something. And I think that's why it definitely came back after The Mummy this year, if you saw it.
I liked it more than The Mummy.
There's a lot of things better than The Mummy, John.
Lots of things.
Countless things. But this was kind of the original thing of that. Of bringing all these things together. You have Dracula, you have the creature from the Black Lagoon, or as they call him in this, Gilman, you have Frankenstein's monster, you have a werewolf, all coming together to murder some children.
Yeah.
There's that. Yeah, that's what's going down. But you shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no.
I'd say though, for me, the big positives from this movie, I have to say, I love the Shane Black dialogue in this movie. I think it shines through, especially in the scenes where there's the classic 80s style bullies in this movie who say and do things that when I was watching it, I was like, that's where you definitely see the age.
Yep.
Right there is like in some of those things, how they treat the fat kid and all that stuff.
Yeah,
we'll talk more about him in a minute.
Yeah, there's definitely some dialogue where I was like, whoa. I had to go check my rating. What is this rated right now?
And at the same time, it's one of the things that I really liked. I really liked the fact that the dialogue for the kids felt like things that kids actually would talk about. Not how we in kids' movies want kids to talk when they're all together, when it's just kids when it's just kids. There's a lot of inappropriate things that they talk about. There's a lot of things that are, beyond their age that they talk about in this movie, and I really like that. I think that it added this really fun, and in a sense, this kind of real element to it. A little bit more realism, I felt like, from these kid characters, and I think it helped me get a little bit more engaged with this movie.
Yeah, I gotta double down on that. I really did enjoy that aspect of it as well. And I felt like some of the characters were just really fleshed out really well. Like I was just saying, I really enjoyed the dad, who also is like the detective that's working on like the mysterious things that are happening around town. And I felt like some of the interactions between him and the main character, I cannot remember the son's name, but like their interactions were just like, there's some really good genuine moments. There's like a scene where he goes out on his roof and he's watching a horror movie on like a big drive-in screen with some binoculars, and his dad comes up like it's a routine thing, sits down next to him, he's like, what did I miss? And he pulls the binoculars out. And it's just kind of like that hat tip or that homage to like, just what it would, that feeling, of going to see a movie with your dad. Or I don't know, but like, but also like paying that homage to horror films too.
And plus, it's cool to see a kid do something that doesn't involve a smartphone, right, guys?
Yeah.
That's gotta be really cool. Now that kid would just be sitting on the couch or in his room on a smartphone watching the television and would never speak to his dad. I hate you, Dad. You don't understand me.
Oh, the 80s. It was such a different time.
Such a different time without the internet.
Yeah, such a different time.
Such a different time. We were just talking about that with the Lost Boys recently. Was just kind of like, wow, this is what people would do when they didn't have the internet.
Yeah,
go outside and ride dirt bikes and become vampires and shit. But putting that stuff aside, no, I think that those are the really fun, genuine moments in this movie. I think that another really fun character for me is Rudy, the older kid who joins the Monster Squad. Yeah, he's slick as shit, isn't he?
I just love that. There's like, what's the second way to kill a werewolf? And like, blow him up, like all these different things.
Kick him in the balls.
There is no second way.
Yeah,
Shoot him with a silver bullet. And then, there is no other way.
Yeah.
There's just some fun stuff like that in the movie. I really enjoyed that stuff. And one of my favorite scenes is when he's shooting like Dracula's brides like with a crossbow, like in the middle of the street, like just taking them down. And just like the idea of like people saw it happening, what they were thinking, like, oh, there's like a 14-year-old outside shooting women with a crossbow right now. There's stuff like that. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a blast.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fun things to be had. And obviously, there's monsters in this movie, not just children. And there's also creature effects. Sam Winston does the creature effects in this film. I would say, though, for Sam Winston, for me, it was a mix to maybe like 75-25 in the good spectrum.
I highly doubt he had much money to do anything.
Yeah.
It was like Stan Winston.
I felt like some effects looked good, some just didn't.
Yeah.
Like where I thought that the Wolfman's costume didn't look good. The Creature in the Black Lagoon or Gilman's did. It actually looked really good.
Yeah, it looked really good.
So I thought that it was kind of a mixed bag. There was some effects I felt like held up really well, other things that didn't. Dracula kind of looked like he should be working at Party City sometimes. But beyond that, though, there was definitely some effects I thought that actually held up well, like his bat transformation when he turned into a bat. I was like, that actually looked very smooth for the time. So
looked pretty smooth for like the type of film this is too, because it could easily look really cheesy, and it still looked pretty good.
So obviously, we've talked about our positives. Obviously, there's probably going to be some negatives as well, John. What were some negatives for you with the Monster Squad?
Well, I think honestly, a lot of it comes down to I missed the ship a little bit. I'm 27 years old, and I just watched the Monster Squad for the first time. It's not going to have the same effect on me as if I would have watched it back in like 1993 or 1994 as like a 3 or 4 year old. That's a little early for this movie.
Maybe a little early for this.
That's a little early.
Learn some things.
It depends on the household, though. I'm sure there's quite a few.
I was watching like T2 at that age. So
yeah. Well, I think like a younger generation watching this film easily see why this is a cult classic and why people hold this movie to the standard that they do. But for me, it's like the acting, there's cheesy dialogue, there's outdated dialogue, there's definitely some stuff that just does not. I was like, hoofta. There's some stuff being said in there right now that is just shouldn't be said anymore. Some of the bullies
maybe shouldn't have been said then.
Totally. It's one of those things that definitely is.
So some would say, some would describe it as greatness, but yeah, there was definitely some things in there that have not aged the best, and I think that for all the snappy Shane Black dialogue, as we said before, there is definitely some poor performances. They're kids, but there's definitely some line delivery there that's missing, or really adds to some of the cheese factor, but not in the good way. Or if you really are looking for a laugh, you can get it out of it maybe, but. There's just some of the acting isn't quite there with some of the younger actors, or even but with some of the older actors. I didn't think Dracula was very, very impressive.
No,
he was for me. No, he was supposed to be the king of this stuff, and he was, like I said, he looked like he worked at Party City. But
even like the Wolfman too, like one of his actually the initial transformation kind of looked cool, but then when he was acting it's like this guy doesn't know what a werewolf is.
Yeah, I think that's Bill. He lives a couple houses down. He does it every year. But that's how I felt with some of them. You know what I mean? That's definitely how I felt with some of them.
I don't know, were they told this is just a kid's movie, just act really really wooden and cheesy. Or are these guys just blatantly don't know what these monsters are? I don't know.
But as you said, though, I'm not sure how much money that they had. And, my other big complaint with this movie is that it's, for the most part, it's a Goonies ripoff. Kind of blatantly so, especially when you get into the greatly named character Fat Kid. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
Did his name was Horace. He did have a name. His name was Horace. Fat Kid Horace. But he looks like Chunk, he acts like Chunk, he might as well have done the Truffle Shuffle in this movie. I felt like he was basically a complete rip of that character just trying to cash in on the Goonies. And then Rudy, too, he kind of reminded me a lot of the Josh Brolin character in the Goonies. Just the group as a whole reminded me of the Goonies. So there's definitely that where it doesn't feel like its own thing. It definitely feels like it's trying to recreate the magic.
Well, I mean, not only that, it is taking these iconic horror properties too and already intertwining it with that, and then ripping off the Goonies.
Someone watched a Christopher Lee Dracula, and then they watched the Goonies and I got an idea. This was successful and that was successful. Bash them together, that'll be successful too. But usually two positives make a negative, but whatever, science. It doesn't always work out that way when they try to combine other great movies, or I got this one great idea here, this other one there.
Well, even the tagline too on the box or on the cover of the poster or whatever is who to call when you have ghosts. So I mean, they're even taken from Ghostbusters. They're even taken from...
This may have been an Asylum film, their first one. I don't know, but it definitely, like I said, it definitely is trying to just jump right into that same stream there with the Goonies.
And for those reasons, you could see why. It had a cult following because of all those things together. Did it please a small amount of people, but everybody else, it was just kind of forgotten in the mix of movies in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked about the positives, we've talked about the negatives. John, what is your final summary and grade for The Monster Squad?
The Monster Squad is a movie that I was really curious to see. I had some fun with it, but overall, it's not a movie that I would recommend too much to people in this generation. I had mild fun with it. I thought some of the creature design and some of the jokes and stuff like that was fun, but a lot of this stuff just didn't age very well in this movie, and I can see why it's a cult classic, but I can also see why it's kind of one of those movies that's been forgotten in the 80s. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this movie. I give Monster Squad a C-.
Yeah, definitely a movie that, I was very curious to see this movie after hearing a lot of friends who grew up with it who really liked it. I think it's one of those near cult classics. You could say cult classic, but it's a cult movie. I don't know how cult classic it is. Because it definitely does, as John said before, it gets kind of lost in the mix of a lot of other 80s films, and that's because it's like the Stone Temple Pilots of them. It is really just sort of picking and choosing the things that worked at the time. I really, in general, I was not too engaged with this movie, and like John said, mild fun to me just isn't quite enough. Some of the creature effects were good, but this was definitely a 50-50 experience. I felt like for everything that I was like, oh yeah, I like that, I was like, ooh. So for me as well, I'm going to give the Monster Squad a C-. So that's been our review today of the Monster Squad. Tell us what you guys think and if we just ruined your childhood. You can find us on Twitter to tell us how your childhood was ruined at BacktoFeature, and you can also tell us how we've ruined everything at our Facebook at /BacktoFeature. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vandeloo.
And we'll speak to you guys next time.